It is the antithesis of science, oftentimes the enemy of reason and the estranged cousin of faith. Today, on Tabletop Tuesday, we're going to talk about magic. Hey there, everyone. Welcome back to the show. As promised last week, we're taking yet another dive into the world of mid-80s superhero role-playing game Marvel Superheroes, aka the Faserip system. Further, we're covering the three things within that system I just cannot live without. I gotta have me the advanced set rules, I gotta have me the Ultimate Powers book, and finally, a book that I only just acquired this past year, Realms of Magic by Kim Eastland. Realms of Magic was an accessory for what was at the time the basic set, the yellow box, not the blue one that I use. That being said, the rules are absolutely interchangeable with only minor variations. The book that was put out in '86 was actually two books, not one. See, it was kind of a package deal, as you can see here. You had the overlay. This here outside cover thing, it has several useful tables on the inside. Could probably double as a judge's screen if you wanted. Inside, you had the two booklets. You had your one, you had your two, and you also had another of these fold-out reference chart thingies that you could use for a screen, just chock full of useful tables. Tables I will absolutely be using now that I know they're there. No, I was not aware prior to making this video. I did mention I just acquired this puppy this year, right? Moving on. The first book is the Manual of Magic. It comprises essentially about 8 sections. The first section covers terminology and a discussion of magical energies within the Marvel Universe of the time. The second section is all about creating a magical character. Now, you can use this a number of ways, so don't take my way as gospel. Y'all are going to have to determine what works for you. But this is how I do it. The advanced set has only the most basic treatment of magic. It's bare bones. If you want a truly off-the-shelf generic magic character, those rules are fine. The Ultimate Powers book expands on this generic motif a great deal, but it's also Amazon Basics, and I find it unsatisfying. Now, this system right here is what I use. First, you roll to determine what type of magic person you are. About 10% of the folks out there are simply magically enhanced. That is, they are a type of altered human from the base set, but the alteration is magic. This could be enhanced abilities, it could be powers that are magical, you name it. The second type, comprising about 25% of the magical population, are simply folks with magic items like Black Knight's sword, Tiger's amulet, etc. There are robust tables for determining the type of item and what power or powers it possesses, but there's also room for customization and originality, something I use extensively. The third type, and the most extensive at about 65% of the magical populace, are the spell wielders, the Doctor Stranges, the Cleas, the Scarlet Witches, and so on. These folks determine what kind of energy they channel, how many spells they start with, what school of magic they belong to, if any, and the individual spells they possess. This section also determines the power ranks of your starting spells, and I have found them greater in power than street level, but lesser than, galaxy spanning shenanigans of Doctor Strange, so bear that in mind. Nice little middle starting ground there. Now, this spell list you won't find in other supplements. This here's the real deal for spellcasters. Tons of unique powers, some derived directly from the powerful magical energies of the Marvel Universe. The overlap with things from, say, the base set and the Ultimate Powers book is at best 50%, and I don't even think it's that. Lots of unique flavor here. Finally, there's a section on talents. A spellcaster might have 35% of them are going to be regular talents from the base set, but the remaining 65% are unique to spellcasters. Things like Scholar of Antiquities, Runesmith, Chronicler of Magic, all kinds of fascinating skill sets for magic users. Love this stuff. And what I tend to do is if I roll up a character and they have magic from either, the base set or the Ultimate Powers book, I immediately let them roll magical talents and let them pick which ones they like, subject to the default number from the base set. I like for folks to have options. Let them really get invested in their characters. Also, this can be applied to the talent Mystic Origin, can shuttle you right into the magic book, but I digress. Moving on, there's a little section on setting up house with your magic user, but it uses the basic set resource system, which was overhauled in the advanced set, so you'll have to decide which way you want to go with that. After that, we dive into exhaustive spell descriptions. This goes on for about 15 pages, where you finally get the rules for magically enhanced folks on page 30. Don't ask me why they shoved them in the back there. I don't know. Would have made way more sense to detail it right there at the beginning, like they did with magic item users, but whatever. Finally, there are sections on how spells are cast, magical duels, and a section on karma and advancement, which is again, take it or leave it depending on if you're using the base set or the advance. Now we get into the second booklet, Manual of Mysticism. A disclaimer on this one. The entirety of this booklet is set firmly in the Marvel universe of the 80s Faserip system. It may not be of great use to those of us who homebrew everything, but it's a wealth of information regardless, and there's a chunk of it that might even be of use to a homebrewer. The first section discusses origins of magic power, ranks of spellcasters, the role of a master in learning magic, and some discussion of esoteric items like concentration, confidence, restraints, and gloating. Yes, gloating. There is an entire section on how long a villain might gloat depending on their sorcerer rank. It is hilarious. But anyway, finally, there's a tiny little blurb about science and magic. As the two have a volatile relationship, I think the author read the room and touched on it just enough to say they did their due diligence and then got the heck out. Probably a good call. Moving on. The next 10 pages or so dive into the various dimensions of the Marvel Universe, their powers, how to get there, what it's like there from an Earther perspective, and so on. Very useful if your characters are gallivanting around the Marvel Universe. Then we dive into the entities of the Marvel Universe, how to entreat them, what powers they grant, etc. This all reminded me a very great deal of the comic series Strange Academy, which, if you haven't read that, you should. It's heartwarming as all get out. I loved it. Reminded me a lot of Harry Potter, but more Marvel-esque, if that makes sense. Great writing, superior art. You should check it out. Anywho, this goes on for several pages until we hit a miscellaneous spells section. Again, these spells are tied to the Marvel Universe of the 80s, so gaze upon them through that lens. They can certainly be adapted to other worlds and realities, though. Notable magical items of the Marvel Universe follows that and goes on for several pages before the book wraps up with notable locations and cults. Now, the bad news. The book itself is horrendously expensive online. I found my copy for a steal earlier in the year, as I have been watching eBay for years trying to obtain a copy. I never had one. A dear friend of mine who's no longer with us, he had our only copy when we played, back when we were kids, and I'd always use his. So having one of my own, man, that's been some decades in the making. So just be prepared to hunt for this puppy or pay out at least 50 bucks. The good news, however, is that it, like everything else, is available free on classicmarvelforever.com. I'm going to refrain from saying link in the description below because I always forget. You all know how to find stuff on the internet. Who are we kidding? But it is a book I personally swear by, and I absolutely recommend if you want any level of magical customization in your game. It makes magical based characters feel so much more original and unique, as they should be, and your players will thank you for it. And there you have it, folks. Marvel Superheroes Realms of Magic, the perfect accessory for your magic heroes. Thank you all for tuning in. Give me a moment of your time. I appreciate you. And now I'm going to pass turn. I'm going to let you all get out there and roll some dice of your own. It's Tuesday, y'all. Gather around that table, roll some dice, make some memories. While you're at it, pop in a good movie, maybe watch a cartoon, read a comic, get a little exercise, and drink a little water. As always, have a good